Your lesson essential question is, how do we identify connections in steps in a process? So if you think of steps in a process, think of a text that's showing the order something happens. So you might think of a recipe, you might think of directions that come with building a new toy or building furniture. So steps to doing something. And we're going to be identifying connections. And we'll do that through specific words. And we're going to talk about those specific words in just a second. So today we're identifying connections in steps in a process. Key details in informational texts are connected in specific ways. Now we've talked about key details before. Key details are those most important details in a text. An informational text gives information about something. So when you think of a recipe or directions, those are giving you information about how to do something. No matter what kind of informational text it is, the key details are always connected in specific ways. This week we are focusing on steps in a process. And steps in a process are always organized through sequence. And like we said before, some steps in a process could be recipes, directions. You might follow them in science. Think about the scientific method. When you follow the scientific method, those are steps in a process. So we're going to be looking for those sequence words. First, next, after that, last, then, in the beginning. We might have words like in the end, after a while. You might also see times. At 3:30, I get on the bus. At 3:45, I get off of the bus. At 3:50, I eat a snack. At 4 o'clock, I do my homework. So you might see times telling the sequence. You might see days. On Monday, I have art. On Tuesday, I go to music. You might also see dates. So we might see the date that something happened. So again, when we think of steps in a process, we're thinking of steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We might see those numbers. We might actually see the steps not labeled with the numbers. So no matter what kind of informational text you're reading, we want to follow these steps. And hey, there's steps in a process right here. First, we want to make sure that we're reading the text. Then we'll identify how the key details relate to each other. So, like I said, this week we are focusing on sequence. Now, if you read a biography, you might also see that the key details are connected through sequence because it tells you the order that things happen in someone's life. Or if we read an informational text about a historical event, that will also show sequence because it'll show you the order things happen. So it'll probably use words like these over here. But again, we're focusing on steps in a process this week. Okay, it's always important that we're taking notes and recording our key details into a graphic organizer to show how they're related. We're going to skip that step this week. And then we want to use those cause and effect words, those compare and contrast words, or those sequence words to explain the text and the connections. So when I go to explain my text afterwards, I'm going to use those sequence words to help show the connections that were in the text. So we're going to read this text, The Scoop on Ice Cream, and we'll be looking for words that show sequence. And we're also going to identify key details showing the order to do something. So this text is called Making Ice Cream. We went to Ample Hills Ice Cream Factory in New York City. We learned how they make their most popular flavor. It's called Ooey Gooey Butter Cake. So, take a look. We're going to be learning how they make their most popular flavor. And you're going to notice right away, this text is showing the steps of how to do something, but what's awesome is it's also numbering the steps. So these numbers right here already are showing sequence. I also want to point out that there's some really great text features. Text features are extra things that help us understand the text more. So one text feature are these photographs. So these photographs are going to go with each step, and it kind of helps us visualize and understand the steps more. And I also see captions. Captions are also a text feature. And these captions are going to help us understand what's happening in the picture. My last text feature I want to talk about is keywords. These keywords are kind of just important words, kind of like vocabulary words, that really help us understand the text. All right, so step 1, mix it, heat it. First, the workers mix the ingredients. I'd like to point out they did use a sequence word. First, the workers mix the ingredients. They pour milk, cream, eggs, and sugar into a mixer. The machine blends the ingredients together. It mixes them up. It also heats the mix to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That kills any germs. Now, if I'm not sure what this word blends means, there's actually a context clue in this paragraph. Blends means mixes them up. So the definition is actually given in the next sentence. It's important that when we don't know a word, we're looking for context clues that help us figure out the meaning of the word. Take a look at the photograph. It says, Gerson checks the mixer. So it looks like as the mixer's blending, Gerson is over here checking on it to make sure everything's going okay. So this picture and caption gives me a little more information about that first step. Step 2, stir it, cool it. Ice cream is not supposed to be hot, so the mix has to be cooled down. It goes into the ice cream maker. This machine stirs the ice cream more and cools it down. Now the mix is only about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Brr. I see this word now. The word now tells me that the ice cream is now cooled down. Now take a look at the photograph. Now I can read about mixing and stirring, but the photograph is helping me understand what it looks like when that happens. And it says this part stirs the mix. Step 3, add mix-ins. Next, workers add the mix-ins to the ice cream. Those are the chewy, crunchy bits that some ice cream flavors have, like peanut butter cups or cookies. The ooey gooey butter cake ice cream gets, you guessed it, cake pieces. I'm going to ask you, do you see a sequence word in step 3? And you should have said that you saw the word next. So that's telling me what happens next, or in step 3. Take a look at the photograph. Tell someone in the room what's happening in that photograph. Yeah, I'm seeing that there's a lady putting in the mix-ins. And we can see her name is Laura. She's pouring in bits of cake. Step 4, pump it out. After that, it goes to the filling machine. It's a big tube that squirts ice cream out. Workers hold cartons under it and fill them up. Those cartons get sold in grocery stores. The workers also fill up big tubs of ice cream. Those go to the Ample Hills ice cream shops. Do you see any words here that are showing sequence? And you should have said that you saw the words after that. How does this photograph and caption help us? Yeah, it's actually showing us what the machine looks like that's filling the containers up. All right, step 5. At last, the ice cream is finished. It's in a carton or a big tub. What is left to do? Scoop it, put it in a cone or in a cup, and enjoy your tasty treat. It took a lot of work to make. So I'm seeing the words at last, and that tells me that this is the last step. There's Jackie and Brian. They're eating their ice cream, and they're showing the last step. The last step says to enjoy it in a cone or a cup, and here they are eating it in a cone. If you look over here on the side, just a little bit more information about the Ample Hills Ice Cream Factory. Here are some flavors you can get at Ample Hills. Which one would you choose? Ooey Gooey Butter Cake, Cotton Candy, Pumpkin Cheesecake, Dark Chocolate. So this little extra piece of information isn't really part of the text, but it is just giving us more information. Now it's your turn to talk about sequence in your discussion post, and tomorrow you'll be doing some writing with this text.